Hello, I am Zuleya and I'll be taking you through the principles and practice of procurement. So, the very first unit, the nature and meaning of procurement and supply. Of course, we can't do any procurement without knowing what it means or what goes into procurement and supply, right? So, without wasting much time, let's get into the first section, which is talking about the common terms used to describe aspects of procurement and supply. By the end of this section, you're expected to know the meaning of these terms: procurement, purchasing, supply chain, materials management, physical distribution, logistics, and contract management. So the very first term, which is purchasing. Basically is the act of buying or obtaining goods or services which are paid for. So as people, one way or the other, we always engage in purchasing. So right now I'm hungry, I take my money, go to the market, I locate or identify the food I want to buy, I pay for the food, I get the food, and then that is it. Purchasing has occurred. After I get the food and I pay for it, there is no other relationship or follow up relationship between myself and who I got the food from. That is it. Purchasing is that simple. Unlike purchasing, procurement goes beyond that relationship, alright? So most people actually confuse purchasing with procurement, but then procurement has to go through some scientific processes that has been carefully planned and laid down. With public procurement, we say our main objective is to achieve value for money. We can't just do anything in public procurement like we do for purchasing, which is just waking up and then buying something. With procurement, first thing first, there should be a need for whatever we are going to the market to buy. That's why in the procurement process, the first thing is the need identification. Once a need has been identified and we confirm and define the need, and then we know that indeed there is a need for a particular requirement, then we go through the procurement process by sourcing for the suppliers and then the requirements, going through all other processes to make sure the procurement has the need or the item we want, we obtain it at the right with value for money in mind. Yes. And then unlike purchasing where after getting the food or the item or whatever you need, the relationship ends there. Procurement goes beyond just the contract award stage. So with procurement, we say after the contract has been awarded to a supplier, the process does not end there. It goes beyond the contract award stage to contract management. We might have to manage our relationship with our suppliers after awarding a contract to a supplier to know that to make sure that both parties are executing our part of the contract. We can't just award a contract to a supplier and then go back to our organizations, sit down and not care what the supplier is doing or not know what the supplier is doing and expect that everything will be okay. We have to manage our relationship with the suppliers. We have to plan and then make sure whatever we can do to help our suppliers to do whatever they are doing successfully, we have to come in to help them. So procurement, sorry, goes beyond just the contract award stage to the contract management. Right now that we've gotten a clear distinction between purchasing and procurement, move on to supply chain, which is our next theme. So supply chain is a network of organizations that are involved through the upstream and downstream linkages in the different processes and activities that produce value in the form of products and services, right? So let me give an example. The chains or the necklaces we wear, you realize there are small nodes that comes together to form a chain. Then we can say that once a node or that small node is taken out of our necklace, then we can no longer call it a chain. We can't wear it like we used to. That is the same idea or concept of a supply chain. With a supply chain, we have to make sure at all times everybody, every actor in the chain is present or is performing. As an organization, we can't manage our relationship with one person and then ignore the other. Every actor in the chain is important. So we can say, for instance, let's say the logistics companies, right? So right now we have our raw materials at the supplier site. We also have our production units, which are two separate places. We need these logistics people to transport our materials from the point of the supplier site to our production unit. And after production, we even need these logistics companies to move our semi-finished goods from the operation unit to our warehouses, or our finished goods from the operation production unit to our warehouses, from our warehouses to our manufacturers, sorry, our wholesalers, our retailers, and to our customers, right? So every little node, no matter how small it is, it's very important in the supply chain in order to get a product onto the market, right? From the upstream, which has to do with our supplies, where we get our raw materials from, through to the downstream, which we have our customers, our retailers, and all that up there, right? So we see every little node or actor in the production process, which plays one role or the other in making sure that we get our product, a successful finished product onto the market. Every actor involved in that process as part of our supply chain. And the supply chain must always be a chain. It should be a network. One node, we cannot take one node out and then still call it a supply chain. All right. Materials management is our next thing. Just as the term implies, materials management, management of our materials. We say it is the planning, organizing, control of all aspects of inventory, embracing procurement, warehousing, work in progress, and distribution of goods. As procurement professionals, it's our duty to make sure that at every point in time in the production process, we have the optimum level of goods, raw materials, work in progress, finished goods, labor, machines, everything. At every point in time, we have the right number, right quantity of goods needed in the production process, just so we don't miss customer demands, we don't miss productions, we don't have some materials redundant in our warehouses, which we have to manage, which is all cost. We don't have, at all point in time, we don't have shortage of materials. Don't forget, in public procurement, our main objective is achieve value for money, right? So at every point in time, you have to make sure that the right level of materials needed is available to meet customer demands, to make sure value for money is achieved, to make sure production goes on, to make sure we don't miss deliveries, and a whole lot, right? So that is materials management, managing our materials at every point in time in the production process to make sure we have the right or the optimum level of materials, work in progress, finished goods, everything, always. All right, then we move on to the physical distribution, which is our next thing. Physical distribution here involves activities in the output phase of the supply chain process. So this will involve the movement of goods, right, from all the products and raw materials between warehouses, factories, distribution centers, and sending finished goods to our customers. We are saying that, okay, so an example of physical distribution will be when a company transports or moves its goods from a warehouse to a retail center or to a wholesale center or to their final consumers. Any distribution, any movement, physical movement of goods from one point to the other, we say physical distribution has occurred. Right, and then this stage is trying to tell us it's in the output phase of the supply chain processes. So basically, the flow of goods from production to the customer, or the storage and handling of finished output. Anything that is output, it's not that the input, rather the output, right? Logistics is the coordinating and moving, or let's say transporting of goods from one point to the other. And of course, we can't talk about management without the element of planning and controlling. So together we say logistics management is the process of planning, implementing and controlling the efficient and effective flow of storage of raw materials, in-process inventory, finished goods, services, and related information from point of origin to point of consumption for the purposes of conforming to customers' requirements. So as procurement professionals, in which our main objective is to achieve value for money, we have to make sure we manage the flow of materials from each point, from one point to the other. We can't just wake up and then transport our semi-finished goods or raw materials or finished goods anyhow. We have to make sure whatever we do, we sit down and plan to make sure whatever process we are doing, whatever means we are using to transport these materials is the most economic means that is going to help us achieve value for money. So, for instance, an organization can just wake up one day with no planning and say, okay, so we are moving, we have to get a good to Kaswa, and then we have to also get some to let's say Cape Coast. right? You know, Castle and Cape Coast, we use the same route, the same stretch with no connects and nothing. And then we are moving the product from Accra to Kaswa and Cape Coast. And then it's each is, let's say, taking just a small portion of one car where we can fit both goods, both Kaswa and then Cape Coast goods into one car. Some organizations without planning, we just go for two cars, which has two drivers, two distributors, two loading boys, two of everything. And then they're going to use the same route to come and offload just half or a quarter. That's something that both cars could have, one car could have taken both, whatever both cars are carrying. We just wake up and then put these things in separate cars when we could have combined them, put them in one car. When the car gets to Kaswa, it offloads whatever is supposed to leave at Kaswa. It moves on or carry on to Cape Coast, and then we do the same thing. Some organization can just, because they don't, because there is no planning, all right, there's no control, we just do anything anyhow. We are saying that in public sector, in the public procurement, we can't do that. We don't work like that because we are working with the public, the taxpayers' money. We have to make sure whatever we are doing, we are achieving value for money, or we are getting value for money for the taxpayers. So we have to plan, make sure we are using the right means of transportation, we are using the right people, we are using the right mode, the right everything before we move. That's why we have the elements of management here, planning and controlling in order to achieve value for money, right? Then we have contract management. Of course, like I said earlier, with public procurement, the procurement process does not end when we award the contract to a supplier. It goes beyond that, which is the same we have here as contract management. As procurement professionals, we can't just award a contract to a supplier and come and sleep in our homes or offices and assume everything is going on okay. No, it's not allowed. We, after awarding the contract to the supplier, we have to make sure that each party to the contract, but the suppliers and ourselves, we are executing our part of the contract. If the supplier promised to do this and this, contract management is going to help us know whether the suppliers are indeed doing what they promised in the contract. Ourselves as procurement professionals, we have to make sure whatever we promised our suppliers, whatever we promised we are going to do, whatever was in the contract that we signed, we have to make sure we are doing them accordingly. This is what contract management seeks to achieve. So just managing our contract that we've signed with our suppliers to make sure everything is going on smoothly and that each party is discharging their part of the contract. So that brings us to the end of the first section. So by way of summary, we have explained certain generic terms used to describe aspects of procurement and supply. We've explained purchasing, we've explained procurement, we've explained supply chain, materials management, physical distribution, logistics, and contract management. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.